we're waiting on you. Okay, we are going to call our meeting to order October 8th, 2019 at 7:09. Uh, Roll call, all members are here. We're going to stand for the pledge, and then we're going to remain standing for a moment of silence.
President Ordway, I move that the governing board adopt the agenda.
I second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we're going to go to board reports, and I'm going to start tonight. We've had a groundbreaking Friends bench donated and a lot of different things like that. So I'm sure the other board members are going to go a little bit more in depth on that. I've had some opportunities to speak and listen to the public the parents' public community, all the same, I guess, in formal and informal settings. And they've been about topics such as our M&O override and bond, campus and district safety and security, communication regarding anything and everything, de-stress areas for employees on our campuses and in our facilities, needs on campus to monitor and fix technology issues for staff and students, such as suggestion was having a technology tech at the campuses. That would free in the high school arena anyway, it would free the librarians possibly to concentrate the bulk of their time on their students as opposed to the iPads or whatever the devices that we have. I listened to sixth grade parents talk about how walk-up math works, K to 6. However, when you get to 7th grade, there is no 7th grade to walk into, so that was something else I've been listening to. Our CTE programs and business partners gathered together earlier this year than we've ever done it. They've shared the information to better prepare our students to be viable candidates on the way to their careers, whatever those careers are. And all this time, you talk about students and listen to the great and wonderful things that our students are doing and that people want our students to have. I thank the community all the time for their support and the multitude of ways that they support us. It's not always monetary, mostly it's time. The trust that we have is something that we take very important. Students' safety and employee safety is high on the list, if not the only thing that we'll work out of. So wrapping this up, I'm going to ask our district administration, to set, I would like a discussion item or a study session, and I propose that we have a community cafe that will have on hand all those that help in our investigations, all the tasks that they may do that leads up to the letter, text, email, whatever means of communication we're using to let our parents and employees know, and sometimes your parent and an employee, know how and when we decide to let you go to school when we have issues with a perceived threat. We have so many levels of social media these days, the quickness of when this news goes out is not always in a context or accurate, and sometimes it's extremely accurate and in a context. But we've got principals working so hard to ensure that their text that goes out, or the words in their communications that go out, cover everything that they can say without taking away from the investigation. I don't know if I'm not articulating that properly. So so in talking with different groups, a community cafe such as we had for suicide awareness that would allow all the players that help us make our decisions be there, not to give away the secrets that keep us safe, but to let us know how we arrive at that moment, I think would be very helpful and informative. And I think perhaps in this day and time when we have, where it feels like as parents we have zero control over safety. I mean, it used to be your husband or wife left to go to work and you hope there was an accident on the freeway. Now your kid goes to school and you hope that they come home. So it's a very uncontrolled time, and they're your kids that you're sending. So perhaps if we had all that information available and we listened to how we arrive at it, it may not feel better because it's the day and time we live in, but it may empower somebody to understand a little bit more. And I'd also like to have a report on how, not that this is as important as that, but to some it is, a report on how we're doing that walk-up math when you're in a K-6 school and you're moving up to 7th grade. How we go about that. And on that note, I will be done. And happy Yom Kippur for anyone that is celebrating that. And if you are, you're not here. So, Miss Tweedy, would you like to go now?
Just real quick to add to Ms. Ordway's agenda item, because I had these questions too. I mentioned a few to Dr. Finch today at lunch. I would like to understand when we have this study session, so if there's any current AMGs for the communication plan, and I know that there was an email and our policy was communicated, and so what would fall under AMG versus policy, and then is there any, or is it an individual school decision if the employees are notified after or before or at the same time as the parents? Because I've received some questions about employees who didn't or who were unaware too. So just understanding where they fit in the communication process. And so I just add those questions to Ms. Ordway's. Thank you.
Oh, I'm sorry. Ms. Frank?
No report.
Mrs. Reed?
So I'm going to start out with some of the awesome things that have happened over the last 2 weeks, and some of the events that I've been able to attend. We had conversations with Kurt at Elevate, which was awesome. It's always great when a community partner is there, and just a shout out to Elevate. They show up all the time whenever we need them to donate something, and so I'm so grateful for them donating room space for us to use, and then donating coffee anytime any of our schools need it. So a huge thank you to them. Dr. Finch had some hard questions about the new school and boundaries and all that good stuff. And then hopefully we'll have some answers to parents over the next couple of weeks as we start to discuss that up here as a board. I was able to go to Hillcrest and see the modernization project because I missed that due to one of my kiddos having a function at school when they invited all the governing board members. So it was nice to see they have a great maker space available in their computer lab, which was a great addition to their campus. I had an opportunity to attend Coffee with a Cop and speak to some of our more, how should I say, voters more in their golden age that don't have students in school any longer and who had questions about the bond and the override. So I was able to help provide them with some factual information and where to find answers to more of their questions. So that was a great opportunity. And then I was surprisingly in the Mount Ridge Homecoming Parade. It was raining and it was awesome to be there. And it was great. Their first parade was amazing, and it was great to see all of the kids come out and support to support their student government and all of their sports teams that were featured in the parade. My family went to the Mountain Ridge homecoming game and they had a lot of fun. The kids thought it was awesome, and they liked the fireworks the best. I did get to go to West Wing and be there for the Friendship Bench dedication. And Dr. Tunis was there also, and so that was great that we were able to be there. So a huge thank you to the Lions Club and to the City of Peoria City Council for donating that to our students. I had a surprise once-in-a-lifetime invitation to be one of the people on the tarmac to greet Vice President Pence when he arrived in Phoenix, and that was just a really cool opportunity to be there and to have an opportunity to see Senator McSally again. The Union Park dedication was amazing, so thank you to Barry Goldwater's band that came and played the national anthem, and the Bulldog was there. And again, we had community partners that came out, and Maricopa County Superintendent Steve Watson was there, and he gave just kind of a little dedication speech. And he really said it best when he said that opening a new school is a covenant between the school district and the community. So the school district and our administration and our governing board make a promise to show up and to provide a world-class education. And the community shows up and promises to come and to support that school and to support those students. And it's a partnership. And so I'm so thankful for those partnerships that we have in our district, because we really have so many amazing partnerships that are there. The CTE meeting was wonderful. It was held at Avenue 27, and anytime I get a chance to go to Avenue 27, it's always a treat to see the student chefs that are there. Mrs. Fitzpatrick did a great job at convening all of our business partnerships from industry and all of our CTE teachers, and there was very thoughtful conversation that happened. And one of the things that was really interesting that was brought to my attention from the rep from ASU, I sat in on the education subgroup, and he said that they are having a hard time getting student teachers, teacher candidates that want to come in, and that one of the reasons is because people are discouraging them from being teachers. And so he asked for, and even teachers that are in the current profession, he even mentioned a governing board member in another district that was saying, don't be a teacher, that's stupid. And so, my eyes kind of popped open, and he said, we're really trying hard to find good candidates. Is there anything you guys can do to help? And so, I know that, I was a teacher. I know that we have teachers on the board. It's hard. The things that you have to do every day is difficult. All of the information and the education that you have to cram in the day, and then there's other regulations that come in and other things that you have to constantly do, and manage different expectations of your students. But I think that teachers go into the teaching profession because they want to make a difference and they want to change lives. And there is, in the midst of even the hard days, there's something that keeps you going. There's a little seed in there that makes you love what you do. And so I would like to, encourage our teachers to start sharing those nuggets of truth and those things that they love about their job, the things that they love about their students, the funny stories, the things that, some of the things that your students say, to kind of change some of the story that's around. We know that education across the state is underfunded, and every time I have an opportunity to have those conversations at higher levels to talk about education funding and teacher salary and all of the things that as a district we do and provide that the state doesn't send dollars for specifically, I do. But it would be great to have that encouragement coming from other teachers, so that when one of your students says, I think I want to be an educator, that that there's other people that come alongside of them and that want to encourage them to go to college and pursue that dream that they have. And then with that, yesterday we had an opportunity to meet with the governor's office and talk about some things that the district is doing as far as SEL and school safety. And it's interesting that we had that meeting yesterday because the than we had our situation today. But the thing that I learned that was more abundantly clear yesterday is that as a district, we are doing so many things the right way to make sure our students and our staff members are safe. And what I would love to do, and I'm hoping that we can do that at our roundtable or discussion, is to update our parents and our staff members and our community about all of the things that we currently are doing, because we do so much. And I think that one of our failures as a district is that we're not good enough cheerleaders for the things that we're doing really well. It becomes almost mundane to us. It's a process, and it's what we know, but we don't always tell people. We don't communicate at large all of the wonderful things that we're doing. And so I would like for us to be able to let parents know and let community members know the different tiers of safety that we have built into our school day, and all of the different levels of support that are there for our students and for our staff members. So I'm hoping that the presentation maybe that you presented yesterday, Dr. Zerbach, you would be able to present again. And I think that with the topic of school safety and social emotional learning, that might just be an annual topic that we need to have once a year with parents and a roundtable, because those topics and those strategies are ever changing, right? There's always new data that's coming up. And so I think it would just be a good check-in point that once a year we hold a forum and we say, what are we doing? And we get some feedback, and we're able to just have open and honest conversation. And the governing board members are able to listen, and our admin team is able to listen too. So thank you.
Thank you. Mrs. O'Brien.
Thank you. Lots of wonderful things going on in the district that were highlighted by some of the other board members, but I'd like to give a shout out to Dr. Schwarting and Mr. Segerston, because I got to visit Desert Mountain School as well as Gavilan Peak and get a campus visit. And I'm not sure if I worked at Desert Mountain I'd get much done, because I might put my desk outside and just look at those beautiful mountain views. But they have a lot of great things going on in their campuses, and appreciate their time. Ditto on the great job to Mrs. Fitzpatrick on the CTE stakeholder meeting. There were some great conversations there. And I sat in on the hotel restaurant kind of culinary area and got to hear some good things in that conversation. I'd also like to thank our special guests who came this evening during the award part of our pre-meeting for the athletic presentation. That is a key part for a lot of our students who are involved in our schools. It helps to keep them healthy, hopefully reduce their stress, a little bit of motivation to keep their grades up. So I do appreciate Mr. Warner and all of those guests who came this evening and shared with us. The other thing that I'd like to tag on to that meeting that we had yesterday with the governor's office, and thank you to Dr. Zerbach and Mr. Warner and Mrs. Moffett who came. They did an excellent job with sharing what we are doing in Deer Valley, and I think Deer Valley's been a leader for some time in safety for our students and staff. And I think that given what happened today on one of our campuses, we have another opportunity to be a leader again. And that is in developing that communication piece with our community members, especially our parents. I think that it is, unfortunately, in this day and age of social media, if we are not controlling the message and making sure the facts get out first, we leave ourselves at the mercy of folks who have misinformation or take things out of context. So I hope that we can have this community cafe or work study session and develop another piece that would provide some additional layer of communication to our parents. I think that was heard loud and clear today in some conversations I got to have with folks. And I thank all of our administrators and the police agencies, because I think one of the things people forget when they live in Deer Valley Unified School District is we're not a district that lives wholly in the city of Phoenix. So we deal with several entities. And so I'm grateful for all of that coordination and all of those entities that work for us, and work with us, I should say. I also got to meet with a couple of constituents outside of our district, but one of them is a special education teacher who has been teaching for 45 years. And I would have never guessed she'd been teaching that long, and her passion is just still amazing. So it was an incredible conversation to have with what they're doing in their district and some questions she had. So we got to share some information, and I got some good notes and some questions that I'll share with Dr. Finch later. But thank you again to everybody who comes and gives 100% every day for our students.
Thank you, Mrs. O'Brien. Dr. Finch?
All right, couple things. We, as I think we shared last time, now all 5 of our high schools have homecoming parades. We want to make sure that each town, each region knows that this is the community school. So we're excited about that, get that rolling. In fact, I'll be in 3 of them. I was in Ridge one. I'll be in Boulder Creeks and then in Goldwater. So I had to make 3 trips to the candy store, get my supplies up. But we're excited that all the 5 high schools are doing that. That's something we need to do, and it sends a message to the community that we're a partner. So that's great to see that. We also, you want to put on your schedule, we have the band exhibition coming up on Tuesday night at O'Connor. And so that's an event to see as well. So make sure you get a chance to see that. Come out and where they put all the members on the same field at the same time and play one song, which is quite the event. And lastly, I am, 2 things. It's Principal Appreciation Week this week, so make sure in your value, send a message, get a fist bump, give a high five to your principals. They're a key piece of the machine. Obviously, they have a lot of pressures on them from the bottom and from the top to keep students safe and have academic performance. And so they have a lot of pressure, and we have some of the finest, all 38. We I'm also meeting with the governor this next week, 16th, 17th. 2 different meetings. One about funding, as Ms. Reed referred to, what kind of priorities the governor should have. So it's the same 18 superintendents that were together the last 2 years. So I'm excited to get invited back to that. And then we have a faith-based meeting with them as well the next day. So looking forward to reconnecting with the governor there. So thanks again for all your support as board members as we work together to improve our district. Thank you.
Okay. Oh, look, she's biting at the bit. Miss Mock.
Good evening, President Ordway, members of the board, Dr. Finch, and guests. We're actually going to start this evening with our enrollment report as of September 25th. We continue to hold steady at about 0.3% increase. Yeah, 3% would be fantastic, but it's 0.3% increase in students over this time last year. We are still up in kindergarten with a larger kindergarten than we have first grade. That is atypical, but we are happy to have them. For this year, those kindergartners, those extra 102 kindergartners will only bring us half the funding, as the state only funds for half a day of kindergarten. But overall, in K through 8, we are up 40 students, and in high school, we are up 74 students. And I'll be happy to answer any questions.
And if we had any questions, we'd be happy to ask, but we have none. So, thank you.
The next report, we're going to rapid fire here with 3 right in a row from finance. The next report is the projected 2019-2020 M&O budget report, and we are projecting at this time approximately $297,000 in carry forward. This is a little higher than what we had last year, not necessarily completely different than what we've had in years prior, but we are looking at most of that carry forward right now in classified staff contracts. Due to the need to continue support with special education parapros in the classroom, we expect that $220,000 projected in classified staff carry forward remaining budget balance will actually continue maybe to ebb and flow as we get those folks added to the system and add some additional FTE. Other than that, there's not a lot, only being the second report for the year. We will certainly know more as the year continues, but I'll be happy to answer any questions about that as well.
Again, if we had questions, we'd be happy to ask them, but you can go to number 3.
Well, great. So this next report is a little bit more fun. If you can make finance fun, that's what we're going to do with this one. This is the 2013 bond and M&O override summary of expenditures and report to the public. So this is where I get the opportunity to talk about all the amazing things that we've been able to do for our campuses and our students over the 2018-2019 school year. The 2013 bond authorization, this is the 6th year of spending that we had for this authorization specifically. The categories for the bond included safety measures, energy and water conservation, renovations, technology and equipment, including infrastructure, our pupil transportation and support vehicles, new construction, and furnitures, fixtures, and equipment, and just a little bit there for administration as well. One of the things that you can tell from this slide here is that for all of the categories, except for new construction, we are near 50% or over 50% complete on the budgeted for the projects. Once we add the construction of Elementary 31 this year, it will take us to near completion of the projects that we have. We have our facilities department. I would like to give a special thanks to Mr. Jeff Long, our facilities director, and his crew for working with the schools. He actually, I think, is already, I'm looking at Mr. Miglerino, working with principals to determine what projects they need done on their campuses for summer of 2020. And so they do a lot of he helps facilitate a lot of the projects that are then completed through the bond. This graph here just shows a little bit more of a representation of the budget and the expenditures to date. And again, you can see that it's just the new construction of Elementary 31 that's happening this year that will be the last major project of the bond. So these are the specific dollar values that we expended in FY19 and also prior to FY19 to date. You can see on the right, it shows the status. Mr. Miglerino helped with this, so if you have any questions, we might defer to him on this as well. IP on the right-hand side means in progress. C means complete. Most of the projects are still in progress as we still have summer of 2020 to complete things such as modernization and, of course, as we complete the construction of Elementary 31 and projects such as roofing, painting, flooring, upgrade of the HVAC systems that help us save M&O dollars with our air conditioning and utilities, playground safety, camera systems. But that's not all. There's more. There's the technology and infrastructure, which includes bring your own device initiatives, pupil transportation, new construction. We're going to beat that one to death, I guess. Furniture, fixtures, and equipment, and the administration. So the total amount expended in bond in 2019 was about $23.9 million. We have a list of the projects that were completed. This is mostly the technology. Included the purchase of 4,421 Chromebooks, 1,230 computers, and 2,507 iPads. No small purchase there for those items to get them in the hands of the teachers and students. Video security system updates at several campuses. We had the completion of the Arrowhead modernization project and the beginning and mostly completion of the Hillcrest Middle School modernization project as well. We did have a couple white fleet replacements this year and bus replacements and again copier replacements. Here is the extensive but not complete by school list of projects that are done by our facilities project, again mostly over the summer. We had HVAC replacements, energy management, and lighting retrofits under the energy conservation safety category. Under building improvements, we have roofing, fencing, ADA accommodations, intercom and clock improvements at one of the schools. 5 sites received playground improvements, And we had concrete and paving completed at 18 sites had concrete and 23 had paving. Any questions about the bond projects? It was a busy year. My hat's off to IS&T and facilities for getting all those projects completed.
Again, we would have been happy to ask questions, but we have none because we all read our information and you answered everything in a
Well,
very
thank you
complete
for
way.
making that a little bit easy. Well, I guess we still have one more slide, too. We had the exterior paint, flooring, interior paint, resurfacing. And you will see a lot of these projects that are completed. I think Mr. Miglerino will talk about later in the meeting as well with the school facilities board plan as well. A lot of these are on a regular cycle, and the bond dollars help us make sure that everything gets painted, re-roofed, and keep our facilities in grade A status.
So were those summer projects?
These are summer projects as well, the exterior paint, the flooring, interior paint. And these are, Mr. Long typically starts, I think previously he may have started in December, but I know he's already meeting with principals to talk about what they need for their campuses for summer of 2020.
So those projects were the last projects, summer projects of the decade?
Yes.
Oh, yes, right.
Excellent
I know.
point,
Sting
President
right
Ordway.
there.
Yes,
All right, I'm sorry, go ahead.
that's all right. So we also have a presentation to the public for the 2018-19 M&O override. The total that we received in our M&O override, which is a 15% override, was just over $27 million. And the items that were funded out of those were existing M&O salaries. It's about 8.5%, or a total of $13.6 million. Class size at grades K through 6. That is based on, Mr. Miglerino can help me with the categorizations that we have here if we need to. -3 FTE per class load. So that's basically just how we staff and make sure that we're staffing the class load at as low as we can afford to staff it at. Class size at grades 7 through 8 was -3 FTE as well, and it's about $6.8 million for the class size reduction out of the M&O override total. In addition, it's more of a flat fee per year. We've got the extracurricular activities, counselors and support services, district budgets, and school budgets at 10% each. For the $500,000 for the extracurriculars, counselors at $500,000, and district and school budgets at $775,000. And not to skip over the full-day kindergarten, as we mentioned earlier in the enrollment report, the state does not fund kindergarten at 100%. They fund it at 50%. And so about $5 million of that extra full day is coming out of the M&O override at this time. And I'll be happy to take any questions.
We have a question. Ms. Tweedy?
How come we're not planning on funding kindergarten in in fiscal year 20?
I think it is just maybe a line movement. The 5.3, I think, is the full-day kindergarten. I think Mr. Miglerino helped with this. This is the same slide on the right-hand side. Those are the same planned expenditures that are in the election presentations, and I think it was just the copy over. It's the full-day kindergarten.
So then there's nothing for extracurricular? Is it?
One category.
I would have to ask. It's all one category. It's
Oh, okay, okay. Thank you. I'm sorry I didn't understand. I thought that it was
Yeah.
blank.
It's-
Okay.
It's formatting. One is centered and one is not centered. So we apologize for any confusion.
And Jim had something to do with that? Actually, we can't read it because it's so small.
He was dealing with larger fonts. Yeah.
Used them.
Thank you.
That it?
Thank you.
And thank you for the end of your report.
President Ordway, we have 3 public speakers this evening.
If you call their names, if you guys could come on up.
Laura Moore, you could come to the podium. The board invites public comment on the district's business in general and on any agenda item in specific. Speakers are limited to 3 minutes. To accommodate all speakers within the 30-minute overall limit, the board president may shorten speakers' times. Vulgarity, disruptive conduct, or remarks disrespecting employees by name will not be allowed. The governing board cannot discuss or act on any items not listed on the agenda. Board members may respond to criticism, ask staff to review a matter, or request a future agenda item. And if you could please just state your name for the record. Okay, you're going to have to speak right up into that microphone so that
I'm Laura Moore.
you may begin.
I'm Laura Moore. I'm a parent of a junior at Sandra Day O'Connor as well. Next year I'll have a freshman there. And I'm coming here today because I'm concerned about the safety and security about my student at Sandra Day O'Connor. But I'm here because I know that you have our students' best interests at heart. I have two main concerns. First, the communication with parents, and second, the actual safety and security of the school. As you're aware, today there was a discredited threat, but a poorly planned and poorly timed pre-recorded voicemail went out during student drop-off that sent hundreds of parents and students into panic and anxiety. I'm sure this is not the intended effect that from this, but it was unhelpful and not proactive. And if this message was sent yesterday, even, or over the weekend, it would have helped to dispel rumors by students and things. So this didn't have to go out this morning during drop-off. Communication with parents needs to be delivered in a consistent manner. First, a message needs to be posted on the website, always, before a voicemail goes out. Then a call, and then an email matching the website. I personally didn't receive the email. I got the voicemail, which was very vague. I went to the website to see what I could find out, and there was nothing. So what I found out was through social media, was a posting of the email. This needs to be timely and proactive, not reactive to whatever the situation is. But even when a threat is not credible, because as you know, the students are aware of what's happening, and it spreads like wildfire. This is the second event during my daughter's time at O'Connor where there's been a threat that has not been communicated. I don't know if you saw the line of parents at pickup today and the anxiety and fear of parents today. It was unnecessary if this had gone out sooner. Second, the students are inadequately prepared for the threat, let alone an active shooter. It leads me to question the preparedness of the faculty and leaders of the school. The layout of the school is a logistical nightmare of traffic, and I believe that first responders and emergency vehicles will be severely delayed due to entrances and exits and traffic. And finally, beside the school resource officer, who would respond to emergencies? We're unaware. Is there a trained security staff? When we're told there's extra security, who is it? And what does that mean? And what do you all know as the school board and leaders that we don't know that'll make us feel more secure and that our students are safe? Because presently I don't know, and there needs to be better communication.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Liz, Charlotte. And if you would just state your name for the record.
Liz, Charlotte. Good evening, and thank you for taking the time to listen. I'm a parent of a freshman at Sandra Day O'Connor High School. Everyone in this room is aware of an alleged threat that was to take place on Tuesday, possibly today, possibly another Tuesday. This information was communicated to me via an automated call and an e-blast at 7:15 a.m. this morning. I had already dropped my daughter off at school. Delayed timing of the communication created an environment of fear. Fear for the safety of our children. Fear is fueled by ignorance, lack of knowledge, and the unknown. Had this information been communicated in a more timely manner, I, as a parent, could process, analyze, and make an informed decision. Knowledge is a tool that gives us the power to execute decisions proactively. Lack of information leads to fear, which garners a reactive response. I've been told by many that it was complete chaos at the school as multitudes of kids were signed out due to the threat. Possibly, if the communication would have been given more timely, today's added chaos to an already stressful event could have been minimized. I understand the importance of protecting certain information as to not compromise the course of an investigation. However, I do believe that if the information that was provided would have been disseminated even last evening, parents, including myself, could process and have that all too important conversation with our children regarding their safety and well-being. In situations such as these, please educate the parents so we can educate our children. There has got to be a procedure or a protocol put in place in which this type of information, both in form and in content, can be communicated timely and effectively to every parent that has a student that can be affected by an alleged event at any given school. This communication must be informative and be before the fact, not after the fact. We as a community of parents, schools, the district, and law enforcement must work together to create this protocol. Yes, many threats are just that, a threat. But when your child could be affected, that threat becomes very, very real. I don't pray that my daughter will get straight A's. I don't pray that she will get into a club. I pray for her safety every day. So, sadly, in today's society, this has become a parent's new normal. One threat is one too many. Effective communication is no longer a choice, it's a necessity. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anthony Romeo. If you'll just state your name for the record.
My name is Anthony Romeo.
Thank you.
I have a sophomore at Sandra Day O'Connor High School. I'm here to talk about the threat today, too. I would like to go over the timeline of events for all of you that I would like to know, from what I understand, has happened. This started on Friday, October the 4th. There was a note scribbled on a desk in an earth science classroom that stated of a threat that would happen on a Tuesday. We don't know which Tuesday, but it was scribbled on the desk for Tuesday. This happened on Friday. I've received no word of this on Friday, Saturday, Sunday, or Monday. The school was scheduled to have a lockdown today, Tuesday, a scheduled lockdown for Eagle Hour, where 2,300 students would be in one general area at one time. A threat was received on a Friday, written on a desk. Could have been Friday of 2017. It could mean Friday of 2000 or Tuesday of 2034. It was found on a Friday. A scheduled lockdown was scheduled for Tuesday, where 2,300 students would be in one area. I had 4 days to notify me. I was notified at 7:18 this morning by a phone call, which after I dropped my daughter up. When I went back there were hundreds of parents waiting in line, and literally thousands of students were checked out. Now, from my standpoint as a parent, it is not up to the administration, the principal, or Phoenix Police Department what happens for my daughter. I should be the one that makes decisions if my daughter goes to school on Tuesday or not. Not the principal, not the police department. That is my job as a parent. If I would have known on Friday, we received a vague threat, which it said a vague threat numerous times in the email. It was processed as a vague threat. Any threat is not vague in this day and age. It was probably mentioned numerous times. But this happened on Friday. I had all day Friday to receive an email or a phone call stating, hey, we relooked at this. We're not sure what to make of this, but let's let the parents be aware. Nothing on Saturday, nothing on Sunday, nothing on Monday. Now, there's still all this stuff planning on happening. The threat came out for a Tuesday, which is today. It happened in Earth Science class, and guess which class my daughter takes at 7:45 in the morning? 10th grade Earth Science class. She was in the classroom where the note was written on the desk and was hysterical when she left that office. Hysterical. She walked out of class. You want to handle a 15-year-old hormonal teenager, go right ahead. But to me, that is completely uncalled for. It is completely uncalled for. I make the decisions in my household, that is my ex-wife. Nobody else makes the decision. My daughter would have not been in that school on Tuesday if I would have known about this before Tuesday at 7:18 a.m. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Could I just request then in the Friday update that you provide the board with a timeline as to who knew when?
Sure. Yeah,
and
much of that
just
information was
everything?
incorrect.
So-
So, yeah, we'll provide that for in a Friday update.
Thank you.
So I have a question about, being the wife of public safety. Is there, they do a hot wash after an event that happens. Is there something that our district does that's similar to
Sure.
that we could get information on that's communicated to us as far as, what Mrs. Tweedy said, the timeline, the facts, how many students were out, what.
Yeah, we do that kind of stuff.
So you can provide that to us in an update?
Thank you.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yep.
President Ordway, I move that the governing board approve consent agenda items 5A through 5P.
I second.
All those in favor say aye.
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 Against, nay. 5 ayes. Moving on.
President Ordway, I move that the governing board accept the administration's recommendation to approve the addenda as presented.
I second.
All those in favor?
Or is there any?
Aye.
Is there any discussion? Okay, all those in favor say
Aye.
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 Aye. 5 ayes. Yep, there it is.
Everybody get to vote? Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
President Ordway, I move that the governing board approve all employee out-of-state travel per governing board policy GCCE.
I second.
Any questions? Yes, Mrs. Oh, Ms. Frank?
Yeah, I would just like to ask that Dr. Vinch provide some clarification on the information we received in the board update regarding where we stood with the agreed upon budgetary amount for our travel last year. And I realize that we're early enough in the year that I assume we are still within that amount, but going forward, I would like to know, and maybe we could receive a quarterly report. How are we doing quarterly, so that we don't end up in a situation where
Sure.
we're over budget or
Yep.
or running close to the wire.
Yep. Sure. Thanks.
Yes, Ms. Tweedy.
I just wanted to express too, I will vote tonight, but to approve any more travel, I need to know where we are this year and what we put in place to make sure we're staying under the budget, and what happened last year and what changes we've made to ensure it's not happening this year. So I'll vote tonight, but I can't vote to approve any more travel until I'm positive we're staying in our budget.
Yeah, we were under last year, and I just got the numbers today on my desk. So I'm looking at was it recorded in one year, and reported the next, et cetera, et cetera. So I'm trying to solve the riddle as well, because we want to be fiscally responsible. So I agree.
But can we have answers before we vote on travel again?
Sure. Well, as Ms. Frank just stated, we're at the beginning of a new year, so any report that I would have would be an autopsy from last year. So the report for this year, I like your idea of doing quarterly, and we gave her quarterly last year as well, and so we could continue to do that. So, yep, thanks.
Thanks.
I'll put it in a Friday update as soon as I try to solve the riddle.
Okay, so then quarterly reports going forward, and then an autopsy of what happened last year when you have that, as soon as you have that information available.
Yeah, I do know a couple things that I do know is majority of the dollars were more pointing in the direction of PLCs, so that was a part of it. So when it was, I need to know when, which year goes with which, and well, I think I reported in the third quarter that we were under by about 100, and so what happened in that last section that went over. So I'll find that out for you. We'll solve the riddle.
So
Thank you.
So in a Friday update, we're going to have last year's information, and then we're going to start having a running quarterly report
Yep, that's
on
what we did
expenditures.
last year, too.
Okay, correct? That's what we're looking for?
Yes,
Okay.
thank you.
So we're up to all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. No opposition. Moving on to 6C.
I move that the governing board accept the administration's recommendation to approve the annual financial report for fiscal year 2018-2019. Mrs. Mock?
I second.
And we will let Ms. Mock.
President Ordway, members of the board, Dr. Finch, and guests, we once again bring you riveting financial reports for this evening. The report doesn't nearly give you the idea of the blood, sweat, and tears that go into the fiscal accounting for the year and the end-of-year report. but we will try to make it as interesting as we can as we go through. Some of the highlights that we have for you: total of all expenses for FY19 increased to $321 million from $296 million in FY18. Overall M&O specific spending, easy for me to say, is up $15 million or 7%. Most of that's due to the increase in state funding, the increase in students as well. Spending on salaries specifically increased $10.3 million in FY19 or 7.7%. When we approved the budget for FY20, we had projected a carry forward of $1.656 million. We were able to actualize $1.768 million as our carry forward from FY19 into FY20. We are happy to say that overall instruction remained consistent at about 60% of all M&O spending, and that's what we reported last year as well, and the year prior. So it's been consistent at 60% for about the past 3 or 4 years. The one thing we did see an increase in was student support, instructional student support. It increased from 1% of the overall budget to 2% of the overall budget. We attribute that to the expenses that were previously paid for in Fund 14 of the Classroom Site Fund, that since all of that fund is now going directly into teacher salaries, we had to move those expenses back into M&O. Some other notes that we would like to point out to you is the CCEIP, or College Credit by Exam incentive program. We have revenue for year 1 and year 2. We have paid out year 1. And results-based funding, you will see that we had 2 years worth of revenue, but we have not had any expenses yet. If you will remember, the results-based funding we began expending this year, mostly to fund our PLC initiative and program this year as well. For capital spending, you will notice that we did increase capital spending from $4.9 million. But it's still down overall from the $5.6 million that we spent in FY17. Some additional notes that you may have noticed on the summary page of the AFR, which I think might have been the first page. It's either going to be the first page or the last page of the AFR, is that we were able to set aside $915,000 in a new school or school opening fund. And that is M&O monies that have been set aside in a specific fund that will help offset the costs of Elementary 31. And it will help pay for the principal, the secretary, additional costs specifically like that. Some of those that we will realize this year in FY20 as well, prior to the opening in 2021. Another note that you might see differently, there's another fund that I may need some of Mr. Migliorino's help on that page to explain. But I think most of you already know that we have a significant cost in our M&O in our administrative fund, which typically is the superintendent fund, function 2300, for our other post-employee benefits, and that's the retiree insurance that we pay. This year we paid about $3.2 million, and the total over, I have to look at it, $56 million is what the total accrued liability is at presently. This year we were able to begin a fund specifically to pay for those expenses, and hope to be able to continue to place monies into that fund if we do it properly. And I'm really giving the abridged version for these questions. We are going to have to turn to Mr. Migliorino. But to be able to continue to fund that OPEB fund, we would be able to take those expenses directly out of the OPEB fund in the future instead of out of M&O, and free up those M&O dollars in the future. Not only will it do that, but it'll take those expenses out of that 2300 and the administrative function. And so our administrative cost will normalize instead of being inflated by paying for those retiree benefits out of there. Mrs. Ordway?
Will that show in the auditor general report differently now?
Eventually, when we get there. It will take us a little while to get there. Putting approximately $4 million, is it 4? Looking at the hand signals over here, $4 million per
I'm
year
watching 'em
into
from up
that
here. Go
fund. I
ahead.
know.
Okay, I was just wondering because I was hoping it could be done long before we talk them into actually having the actual
Yeah.
administrative costs.
It is
in that
a
line.
long-term plan that saves the district money in the future.
Thank you. Judy?
So do we know how much admin spending increased or decreased over last year?
It is on page 2 of, I think it should be page 2 of 8 maybe, but admin spending for general administration increased 1.8%. But it's $3.3 million in that function specifically, and I think 3.2 of those 3.3 were all the retiree benefits.
Okay. So we still did increase a little bit over the retiree benefits?
How much we pay is going to depend on who retires in each year. It could vary from year to year. We expect it to go up, and I'm trying to remember my gym facts over here as well. At a high, it could be 4 million, 4 or 6 million. 4.7 million would be a high that we would see as we move forward.
You know, you could put this in the update, but then I guess my question would be the exact dollar amount of the increase over last year's increase, and then how much of that increase could be attributed to the retiree benefits, and what were the difference in the retiree benefits and as it expressed as a dollar amount between last year and this year?
Yeah, absolutely. We
Okay.
can do that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And then along with that, the explanation of the variance.
Yeah.
Correct. Correct.
There are very few districts that are in this boat. We're one of them, and so it's kind of like paying down your mortgage or paying down your car payment on the back end. It's going to be a millstone around this district's neck for the next 20 plus years.
Yeah. And if
At
we
the
look,
tune of $4 million a year, this OPED liability, pretty significant, and it's an issue that needs to be addressed.
if we look at the slide here, it's going to be under 2,300 general administration and employee benefits. So the total was $3.3 million, and we'll put in the Friday update for you how much of that specifically was the retiree insurance and how much it was the prior year.
Okay, and one more clarification then. Okay, so we quit offering that benefit to employees. So did we quit offering it to all employees or just certified employees?
No, it was a grandfather, and so it's employees hired after 2009 no longer qualify for the plan. So fortunately for us as a district, unfortunately for the expense, we have a lot of employees that like to hang around Deer Valley, so we're going to have quite a few that will qualify for this plan at this time. We want to keep them here, so as long as we can keep them here and keep their knowledge and expertise here, we're going to have this liability.
Okay, now if they leave and go to another district prior to retirement, do they lose this benefit or retain it?
They lose this benefit if they leave prior to retirement.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. And just some graphs that will highlight some of the items on that first slide on some of the highlights. This was the graph from last year for FY18, the percentages. And if I move forward to FY19, you'll see they're almost exactly the same. As a matter of fact, as I was putting this together, I looked at it 10 times because I thought I had pasted the same graph twice. And I finally realized the difference, as you can see on the bottom left-hand side, is 2,200 instructional staff moved in FY19 to 2%, whereas last year it was 1%. And that moved 2,500 central services from 4% to 3%. And really, those are the only two differences between FY18 and FY19 as far as our percent spending of M&L. Any other questions?
I do not believe so.
Thank you.
Really, thank you. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
5 ayes, no nays. Moving on.
That doesn't work so well. I move that the governing board accept the administration's recommendation to approve the Arizona School Facilities Board Preventative Maintenance Plan Report for 2018-2019.
I second.
Mr. Miglerino, I know you've been biting at the bit to give us some information on this.
President Ordway, members of the board, Dr. Finch, this is a report that's required by statute for us to provide the information of the tasks that we were able to complete that the SFB recommends that we complete. So the SFB determines which number of tasks that we should have based on our individual schools. We then report the number of tasks that we actually were able to complete in the previous year. So thanks to our facility staff and all of the platform and the lead individuals at the campuses that help compile this information on an annualized basis, this report is required. It does also require the governing board signature. So as a result, we present it for the board to provide their approval in order to grant the governing board president the ability to sign the form. It's the one form that I like to present every year because it requires everybody's signature but mine. So Dr. Finch's signature, the president's signature, and the director of facilities. I am left out of the equation, which I'm happy to do. I will just comment that the school facilities board provides the format for this. So if you notice, we did not relocate any of our schools to Prescott Valley. That is their form. We have brought this to their attention on a number of occasions. There are some errors and omissions with the form. They just simply ask us to modify it, so you'll see some handwritten numbers in the form as well. Apparently there are some technological issues that we don't have any control over. We're waiting for the school facilities board to correct. But just so you know, that's how their suggestion of how we should address making sure that we meet this requirement. So if you have any other questions, I'll be happy to answer them.
Ms. Reed.
I had a couple of community questions about the report. So how is it determined which projects are completed versus which projects are left vacant, I guess? Or
President Orway, Ms. Reed, none of these I would consider projects. They're all tasks.
Okay.
Preventative maintenance tasks. For example, you'll notice like in the electrical tasks that there are some schools that we perform very low number of electrical tasks because one of the tasks on the list is to test every electrical outlet at the school. We don't have the manpower to test every electrical outlet. We simply wait for somebody to tell us an electrical outlet doesn't work. They submit a work order and then we investigate it. So only when we're doing work at a school would we test every electrical outlet. So for example, at Arrowhead Elementary School, you'll see that every electrical task was completed because we completed the modernization project at that particular school. So it's basically a difference of opinion in terms of what the school facilities board feels should happen as a preventative maintenance measure and what we have the manpower, quite frankly, to do.
Thank you.
Jim, do you know how many outlets are usually on the campus? Just
President-
put it in a report. That'd be fabulous.
President Ordway,
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Millions.
Go and count.
Done? All right. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Oh. Did everyone get the chance to vote? Awesome. Does that bring us to number 7?
It does, President Ordway.
Number 7. Want to hit this one, Mrs. O'Brien?
Yes, ma'am. Fellow governing board members, the Arizona School Boards Association Board of Directors has unanimously approved and presented its members with one proposed bylaw change, and that would be to the one that is in front of us. The current bylaws require a two-thirds vote of all member boards in order to change the bylaws. This actually was changed to this several years ago, many years ago, and they found that that threshold was so high that we don't even get that many members to vote on an annual basis. So the board of directors has unanimously referred this proposed change, which is in front of you, to change it to a majority affirmative vote as opposed to 2/3 of all members. So it would be a majority of all members. Last year, we did vote as a board to approve this bylaw change. So we could do one of two things. We could vote next meeting to just reaffirm the vote we did last year, or we could just vote to approve this again. Are there any questions?
Do we need a vote, or can we just all say what we think?
We actually do have to have an official vote. So we have, next time it'll be on the agenda as an action item. So if there's any questions, though, tonight I can answer them. And if I can't answer them, I will get answers.
Okay, so now I'm guessing, and unless I'm misunderstanding this, because this happened last year, because it requires 2/3 vote, and that much doesn't vote every year, they can't. This is just going to keep coming back, because ironically they can't change it.
So as long as I've been on a board, this is my 5th year, so 4 years, we've gotten, this has been before us this will be the 5th year that I'm aware of. And every year we are closer, and we're like this close to getting the 2/3 vote that is necessary. So I was just going to say, so we are making traction in getting it approved.
Question would be, do we want to reaffirm it or actually just vote?
Right,
Just email your choice, and then that's how we'll put it on the agenda.
Oh, it doesn't matter to me.
I don't have an opinion either way.
Okay.
Awesome. Ooh, where does that bring us?
That would bring us to future dates are posted, and I move that the governing board adjourn this part of the meeting.
I second.
Certainly no discussion. All those in favor?
Aye.
And that would be at 8:16. And we're going to take a 10-minute break, and then we'll go to the next meeting.
Thank you.